Modern society places a strong emphasis on measuring intelligence through structured systems such as academic grades, standardized tests, and performance evaluations. From an early age, individuals are subtly categorized into labels like smart, average, or slow, and these labels often shape how they are viewed by others and how they come to see themselves. Over time, this creates a narrow framework for understanding human ability, one that prioritizes logical reasoning, problem solving, and speed of processing above all else. However, this definition of intelligence is limited, as it focuses primarily on skills that are easily measurable within academic or professional environments. It overlooks other dimensions of human capability, such as emotional awareness, social understanding, creativity, and adaptability. This raises an important psychological question. Are these systems truly measuring intelligence in its full complexity? Or are they simply evaluating how well individuals fit into a specific type of structured environment? IQ, or intelligence quotient, is a standardized measure designed to evaluate specific cognitive abilities, such as logical reasoning, problem solving, and the speed at which the brain processes information. The scoring system is centered around an average of 100, with most people falling within a typical range. When scores drop below 70, psychologists generally classify this as an intellectual disability, and at the extreme lower end, below 40 or 50, it is considered severe or profound cognitive impairment. However, these classifications are built on narrowly defined cognitive benchmarks, primarily focused on analytical performance. They do not fully capture the broader spectrum of human mental functioning, particularly in areas like emotional depth, social connection, or experiential understanding. As a result, IQ scores provide a useful but limited snapshot of intelligence, reflecting only certain aspects of how the mind operates, rather than the entirety of a person's cognitive and emotional capacity. An extremely low IQ does not indicate the absence of intelligence, but rather reflects a fundamentally different cognitive architecture. Instead of viewing the brain as damaged or deficient, it is more accurate to understand it as organized, in a way that processes information through different pathways and priorities. This means that while certain abilities, such as abstract reasoning or complex problem solving, may be limited, other forms of processing remain intact or even relatively strong. This shift in perspective is important because it challenges the traditional view of intelligence as a single linear scale where individuals simply have more or less of the same ability. Instead, it suggests that intelligence is multidimensional, with different cognitive systems supporting different ways of interacting with the world. When we recognize low IQ as an alternative mode of cognition rather than a deficit, it opens the door to a more nuanced and humane understanding of human intelligence, one that acknowledges variation rather than reducing it to limitation. The prefrontal cortex, which plays a central role in abstract reasoning, future planning, impulse control, and complex decision-making, tends to show reduced connectivity and slower neural processing in individuals with very low IQ. This difference in brain function has a significant impact on how they understand and interact with the world. Tasks that many people perform automatically, such as recognizing cause and effect relationships, predicting consequences, or interpreting subtle social cues, can require much more cognitive effort. In some cases, these abilities may not fully develop, making it difficult to manage situations that rely on flexible thinking or long-term planning. As a result, everyday challenges may feel more immediate and concrete rather than abstract or strategic. However, this does not mean an absence of understanding. It simply reflects a different way of processing information, where cognition is more focused on the present moment and direct experience rather than complex mental simulations. Individuals with extremely low IQ often process information at a slower pace, which significantly shapes how they experience and respond to the world around them. Tasks that others may complete quickly or automatically can require more time, repetition, and sustained cognitive effort. This difference is not a reflection of inability, but rather a variation in how the brain organizes and processes information. Their thinking tends to be more grounded in direct, immediate experience, rather than abstract reasoning or hypothetical scenarios. As a result, learning often occurs through repetition, familiarity, and consistent patterns, rather than rapid conceptual understanding. While this may limit speed and flexibility in certain contexts, it also creates a stable and coherent way of engaging with reality. Their cognitive style is not chaotic or disorganized, but simply operates at a different rhythm, one that prioritizes clarity through repetition and concrete experience rather than speed and abstraction. Despite limitations in abstract reasoning, many individuals with low IQ display a notable strength in emotional sensitivity and awareness. They often respond intuitively to tone of voice, facial expressions, and subtle emotional cues in ways that are immediate and genuine. This responsiveness is not learned through analysis, but felt directly, allowing them to connect with others on an emotional level that can be deeply authentic. In many cases, they may struggle to explain complex ideas, yet remain highly attuned to how others feel, recognizing shifts in mood or emotional tension that might go unnoticed by others. This suggests that emotional intelligence functions independently from traditional measures of IQ, relying on different neural systems that are not captured by standardized tests. As a result, their capacity for empathy, warmth, and emotional connection highlights an important dimension of human cognition that is often overlooked when intelligence is reduced solely to analytical ability. Rather than relying on abstract reasoning or rapid conceptual understanding, individuals with low IQ often learn most effectively through repetition, routine, and procedural memory. This means that instead of grasping ideas through explanation alone, they build understanding through consistent practice and familiar patterns over time. Repeated exposure allows actions and responses to become stable and reliable, forming habits that support daily functioning. In structured environments where expectations remain clear and consistent, they are often able to perform tasks with a high level of accuracy and dependability. This form of learning highlights an important aspect of intelligence that is frequently overlooked: the ability to adapt through consistency rather than complexity. Their cognitive strength lies not in speed or abstraction, but in persistence and familiarity, demonstrating that learning can take different forms while still leading to meaningful and functional outcomes. Psychologist Howard Gardner challenged the traditional view of intelligence by proposing that it is not a single unified ability, but a collection of multiple distinct forms. These include linguistic, logical, spatial, interpersonal, emotional, and bodily kinesthetic intelligence, among others. According to this perspective, each individual possesses a unique combination of strengths across different domains, rather than fitting into a single scale of more or less intelligent. Standard IQ tests, however, are primarily designed to measure analytical thinking, reasoning, and academic problem solving, leaving out many of these other dimensions. As a result, individuals with low IQ scores may still demonstrate meaningful abilities in areas that are not captured by traditional assessments, such as emotional connection, practical skills, or social understanding. This theory expands the definition of intelligence, suggesting that cognitive ability is far more diverse and complex than conventional measurements imply. The limbic system, which plays a central role in processing emotions, functions largely independently from the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for higher-level reasoning and abstract thought. This separation is important because it means that emotional experiences such as love, fear, joy, and attachment do not depend on advanced cognitive abilities to exist or to be meaningful. Even when reasoning capacity is limited, the emotional brain can remain highly active and responsive. As a result, many individuals with low IQ are capable of forming deep emotional connections, showing genuine affection, loyalty, and sensitivity toward others. Their relationships are often grounded in direct emotional exchange rather than complex verbal or intellectual communication. This highlights an essential aspect of human experience: that emotional richness is not determined by intellectual capacity. Instead, it reflects a different dimension of the brain's functioning, one that plays a fundamental role in connection, bonding, and the experience of being human. The most important insight that emerges from examining extremely low IQ is that intelligence, as it is commonly defined, represents only a small part of a much broader and more complex human system. Traditional views tend to equate intelligence with reasoning, problem solving, and abstract thinking, but this perspective overlooks other essential aspects of human experience. When we look more closely, it becomes clear that emotional depth, the ability to form meaningful connections, and the capacity to adapt to one's environment are equally important expressions of intelligence. Individuals with low IQ may struggle with certain cognitive tasks, but they can still experience life in ways that are coherent, meaningful, and emotionally rich. This challenges the idea of intelligence as a fixed hierarchy and instead invites us to see it as a multi-dimensional phenomenon. By expanding our understanding in this way, we move from judging ability on a single scale to appreciating the diverse ways in which the human mind can function and find meaning.